Well, welcome to this segment of the Black Madonna Speaks on the Heart of the Black Madonna channel. I'm your host, Stephanie Georgiev. Please like this video, subscribe, and comment. I'm planning to be a little more focused in producing videos in the days to come. As some of you may know, I was traveling on a speaking tour for the past several months, and I will be starting up again in September. So make sure to like my Facebook page, The Heart of the Black Madonna. Follow me on Twitter at BL Madonna for updates on speaking engagements, as well as the publishing of my new book, which hopefully will be out in October. And it will be the second in the series on the Black Madonna. Sort of a little cheerful way of introducing this subject, but in light of all of the recent developments we've been witnessing on the planet, I think it's caused great reflection, and I wanted to talk about evil, the nature of evil. Now, these past few months have been quite dramatic, to say the least. There seems to be no place on earth right now that is not in the grips of some dramatic political or cultural upheaval at present. Institutions are either strained or collapsing, economic structures are teetering, world currency markets are, as the experts say, quite volatile, and there is a very disturbing uptick in racially motivated violence all over the world. It seems as if violent protests are a daily occurrence. I'm currently based in the United States, and at the time of this recording, there have been 250 mass shootings on our soil. And, I don't know when you're all going to listen to this, but it seems like every day. I mean, there's only 365 days in the year, and we've got 250 mass shootings already. So this is quite big. And most of these mass shootings are committed by violent white supremacists and extremists in the United States. The current US government has instituted a policy of caging children indefinitely and under quite cruel circumstances, and often deadly, actually. And this is all happening with the tacit approval of the majority of evangelical Christians in the United States. And I say this with great heaviness of heart, but these are the statistics. When they interview people and they say, "Are you okay with this? Do you approve of this?" And that's who approves of that. And all of this turmoil is happening in the backdrop of lying that we've never seen at this great of a scale in modern history. So what are people of goodwill to do during these unsettling times? I've often said that throughout history, it seems as if humanity is always on the brink of catastrophe. Currently, thanks to technology, we're actually more capable of self-annihilation as ever before. I recently attended Mass at Our Lady Queen of Angels Cathedral in Los Angeles. This is truly a magnificent example of modern sacred architecture, and community life there is also quite rich and multicultural. This is an image of the Madonna that greets you when you go through the main entrance, and she is quite amazing. It's a very beautiful modern statue of a Madonna. Los Angeles, California, where this beautiful Madonna and this cathedral is located, is truly a melting pot of vibrant cultures from every place on earth. 70 languages are spoken in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Cathedral reflects the cultural diversity of the city, and attending Mass is similar to going to a UN meeting. The congregants exemplify the universalism that is inherent in deep Christian community and message, that we are truly all one in Christ. I attended Mass right after the double mass shootings that occurred in both Texas and Ohio. The sermon that day was on how to respond to such violence. In the cafe, which was part of the cathedral campus, I was listening to the news on my new iPad when one of the servers came up to me and asked me if I was listening to the updates on the tragedies. Her response was to say, "There's nothing to be done. We can only pray." For those of you who've read my book, The Black Madonna Mysterious Soul Companion, you know that one of the topics I explore is the fact that the Knights Templar brought back many Black Madonnas from the Holy Land and North Africa to the European continent during the time of the Crusades. And they placed them in shrines and cathedrals all along the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. Why would a bunch of French, British, German, and Spanish knights who were fighting in the Holy Land bring back Black Madonnas and place them along the Camino? The way I answer this question is informed by my research. Others may have different insights. I wish to convey I am presenting only my perspective, which is informed by esoteric Christianity and anthroposophy. Obviously, there are many perspectives, and I invite those who do not agree with my perspective to explore, study, and ultimately share their insights. In no way do I claim that my perspective is the only way to conceptualize the Black Madonna. There are several key phenomena regarding the Templars and the Black Madonna that I feel have great significance for our current era and our current challenges. I feel the timing of the Templars' reign is very important. Their tenure was during the entire span of the Holy Land Crusades, from 1118 to 1307. Rudolf Steiner tells us that the Crusades were the preparation for the age of consciousness soul. According to anthroposophical cosmology, the Earth has had several ages that influence the evolution of human consciousness. Many traditions recognize the different ages which focus on geographical locations, such as Lemuria and Atlantis. We are currently in the post-Atlantean epoch, which has 7 ages. Anthroposophy calls our current age the 5th post-Atlantean epoch, or the age of consciousness soul. It is during this age, which began in the 15th century, and at the time most of us recognize that as the dawn of the Renaissance, where we were able to be awake. We're to develop our consciousness, to discern, to think for ourselves, and to become independent. The other major issue of our time, and actually our task, is to face and understand the mystery of evil. When you look at what has gone on in the world since 1400s, one could say we've actually been doing quite well. And we've also been learning quite a bit about consciousness. We've been developing our thinking capacity in terms of independent thinking. And I would also argue we've been quite adept at studying, confronting, experiencing evil. And our task, after we study, is to understand how to transform evil. If we accept that the Crusades were a preparation for the age of consciousness soul, we can see that the Crusades were a preparation for our current age with all of its challenges. There is something quite interesting about Black Madonnas in terms of their stories of origins and the narratives of their histories. While most works of art have artists associated with them, say Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo, Black Madonnas, for the most part, are by that prolific artist, anonymous. What is also quite interesting is that so many of them have these extraordinary tales of survival. They wash up on beaches after shipwrecks. They survive bombs, fires, revolutions, earthquakes. They are buried for centuries only to be discovered later. And there are many tales of these images being broken and they miraculously mend. Something that is true of our age is that we are in the stage of evolution where we are to mature specifically when it comes to spirituality. In the past, only a select group of elites had to be initiated by a hierophant or a priest or a priestess. Since the time of Christ Jesus, it is life itself that initiates us all. There is no more spiritual elite class of people. We're all equal. There are many ideals and endeavors of the Templars. One was to help civilization to be a container for the divine. The Templars also wanted to inspire European culture to experience Christ as the Apostle Paul experienced Christ at the Damascus event, by seeing Christ in the etheric. When we observe the Black Madonna, something of note is the sternness of the face. These are not a cherubic or happy lot by any stretch of the imagination. As I said before, during our current era, our task as humanity is to encounter, transform, and overcome evil. I personally think humanity has taken this task a bit too much to heart, meaning, wow, we have been encountering a lot of evil, and a large portion of us are promoting evil. And I think it's far outpacing what I feel that we should be promoting, but that's just my opinion. When one considers the last 1,000 years or so, the evil that has pervaded all aspects of life can take one's breath away. I would argue since the middle of the 1800s, and particularly since the 2 world wars, the breadth and scope of evil, if we focus on it wholly, can be overwhelming. When we hear the word evil, most of us understand what that word means. It's in the Lord's Prayer. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The word evil has a concise definition in the dictionary. I find it interesting that the word evil is both an adjective and a noun. As an adjective, it describes something as profoundly immoral and wicked. As a noun, evil is defined as a profound immorality and wickedness, especially when regarded as a supernatural force or through people's actions. One of my personal favorite synonyms for evil is malevolence. I feel it seems to roll off the tongue better and is more descriptive than the word evil. This summer, during one of my lecture cycles, I was talking about our current era, the task we have to encounter, transform, and overcome as evil. And a very interesting discussion ensued with the audience. One lovely, well-intentioned woman passionately argued that there really wasn't evil in the world, that everyone makes mistakes and we should be given a second chance. The topic of evil makes everyone uncomfortable, especially those who have grown up in faiths that shame them for everything imaginable and claim that behaviors such as eating meat on Fridays or not covering one's head with a scarf condemn you to hell. As the woman continued to argue her point, I thought to myself, she is so lucky. She has really not encountered evil in a substantive way. Evil is not making mistakes. Evil is much more than that. Evil is the main reason for people doubting the existence of the spiritual world. The main reason cited by atheists, proving to them that there is no God. It is also a major reason so many rules and regulations exist within organized religions of all type. The purpose of all these rules is to avoid evil at all costs, so as to not to suffer or cause the ire of the spiritual world or deity to which a certain religion pays homage. Some of the definitions of evil have come from my own personal experience, and they're certainly limited, but these are a few of the ones I think of. The absence of good, anything that aims to hinder the relationship between the individual and the spiritual world, anything that interferes with the freedom and consciousness of another person. anything that actively harms another and willfully acting to harm another. Even these definitions we could pick apart, and I'm sure some of you will, but we must learn to see evil for what it is and confront it and work to transform and overcome it. During the Crusades, the Templars carried the Black Madonnas back to the European continent from the Holy Land in Africa and placed them along the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. The Crusades were a preparation for the age of the consciousness soul. Our current age, where we're supposed to become aware, to become conscious, to encounter evil and to transform and overcome evil. We need to keep this in mind when we think about the Black Madonna, the Knights Templar, and the Camino de Compostela, and our current era. Two great examples of extreme evil in the last century or so were the Holocaust in Europe during the 30s and 40s, and slavery and the subsequent terrorism towards Africans to this day in the United States. We could argue that being unconscious of the basic human dignity inherent in all people, regardless of religion and race, contributed to the horrors that African Americans have experienced for nearly 500 years, and the turmoil that happened during World War II. So what do the Templars and the Black Madonna have to do with all of this? The Black Madonna, as an artistic genre, is the symbol of the capacity and the perfection of the human soul. The color black in spiritual artistic symbolism is the color of cosmic will being transformed into human will. The Black Madonnas all have large hands that are usually pointing downward, showing that as agents of human will, we need to get to work on earth. The tales of endurance under incredible odds of many of the Black Madonnas, surviving storms, fires, being broken and mended, and their somber faces, in my opinion, illustrate that humans are to use their wills to bring cosmic will to earth. And though it will be difficult, it is within the capacity of humanity to do such a task. The somber faces of the Black Madonnas, for me, are the spiritual world recognizing that it's going to be very difficult, even painful, but that it is possible to overcome such trials. The Templars were the part of the preparation for the age of consciousness soul. In fact, I call them emissaries for the age of consciousness soul. The Camino de Santiago de Compostela is a modern path of initiation, where pilgrims go along a path of contemplation and transformation, a path where people from all interests and intentions and purposes initiate themselves. What better location for the emissaries of the age of consciousness soul, the Templars, to have images of the Black Madonna, images of the archetype of the human soul, to encourage us at our task during this very difficult time. This is a recognition that the task will be difficult, it will break us, but in the end, we will endure and we will thrive. The greatest temptation during times of prolonged crisis is to go numb and give up. The Black Madonna shows us that the spiritual world believes us and in our higher nature. The Black Madonna speaks to us to keep going, that we can do it, that it will be difficult, extremely difficult. The Templars laid the foundation for our encouragement in the era of the age of consciousness soul. The bombardment that we experience on a 24/7 cycle is actually part of the plans of evil to wear us down. In all acts and experiences of evil, there are instances of great heroism, deep morality, and love towards others. We have evil in our world because it's part of being free. We must have something to choose from in order to be free. Evil can inspire great moral clarity in souls who are filled with goodness. But we cannot just talk and meditate about goodness. And while prayer is hugely important and in fact impactful, and we all should pray, we still need to do something about evil. We must use our wills to promote the good. After the slaughter of the democracy activist youth by a white supremacist in Norway several years ago, the response of the Prime Minister of Norway was profound. He stated that the evil one wanted to stop democracy, stop cooperation between different ethnic and religious groups. He wanted to stop diversity. The Prime Minister stated that the response to this evil that promoted the slaughter was to have more democracy, more cooperation, and more diversity. In these very, very challenging times, where outrage, shock, and grief seem to be an hourly experience, when we witness deep cruelty we thought was not possible in our modern times, what each of us can do is be more loving, more kind, more supportive, and more generous to the most vulnerable in our culture and to each and every person that we encounter, both stranger and the familiar. We need to do more to encounter and transform the evil that surrounds us. Please consider being a patron for this channel, and you can find me on Patreon at the Black Madonna Speaks. There's special benefits for Patreon supporters at all levels. Also, consider reading my book. You can also listen to it if you like. There's a link to the book launch page below this video, and it's available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, Barnes & Noble, the Book Depository, and print on demand. Blessings on your journey.